She was so evil, grass won't even grow on her grave. Trigger warning. In 1905, in Pineview, North Carolina, a little girl was born and named Jeanette. Jeanette's mother said, "It was summertime. We were out cropping tobacco when my water broke. My husband and father rushed me to the backer barn where we delivered our baby, whose cord was wrapped around her neck. She wasn't breathing. She was turning blue. My father took the goat hoof shears and cut the cord from around her neck, and that was when she took her first breath. From that point on, I called her my little miracle, but I had no idea just how much of a demon that child really was." Now, despite her family loving her and supporting her in every way, they noticed that Jeanette was displaying some very concerning behavior. Something was wrong with her. Jeanette began abusing animals and other children, and at 4 years old, she threw her baby cousin out of a window, permanently disabling him. At 7, she stole razor blades from a store, broke them up, and put them in her mom's food, but luckily her mom found them before she ate it. She lured a little boy out to the creek bridge, pushed him off the bridge, broke his leg, and left him there. He wasn't found until 3 days later. So, of course, all throughout school, Jeanette was a big bully, and she was constantly beating up and threatening other kids. By the time Jeanette was 9 years old, she had a long history of killing family pets. She killed 5 dogs, 6 cats, 4 goldfish, 17 rabbits, 7 hamsters, and 2 parrots. Why in the hell would her family keep giving her more pets? They were enabling a serial killer. Jeanette was 10. She lured 2 of her cousins and their dog out in the woods, and she's all 3 of them. The 2 cousins did survive, but the dog didn't, and she stole his tail. They never found it. They were kicked out of church after Jeanette was caught stealing money from the collection plate and feeding it to the toddlers in Sunday school, and she was also caught choking 2 other children. She couldn't be left alone with anyone. Jeanette's mom said, "For whatever reason, I felt like I messed up with Jeanette, so when she was 10, me and my husband began trying for another child." Why would you bring another child around this demon? When Jeanette was 12, we had our son. When we brought him home from the hospital, the first thing Jeanette said when she saw him was, "Wow, he would look really good in a pot of hot boiling water on the stove." And that was the moment I knew I could not leave her alone with her little brother. Gee, you think it took you that long to figure that out? She was so bad, the whole community shunned her and her family. They said, "Look, we don't want her at the church, the school, our house, at family gatherings. We don't want her nowhere near us." Now, despite her horrific reputation, by the time Jeanette was 16 years old, she met a really nice boy named Willie. He was 18, he went to a different school, and the pair began dating. Oh man, Willie, no. I know it's coming. She's gonna kill him. Willie was a very sweet boy. He was a hard worker. He saved up his money, he got him a car, a place, and eventually they got married and moved in together. Jeanette would always threaten Willie, "If you try to leave, I'll take you out with the others. I'll put you in the ground with the demons. You don't want to with me, Willie." While on their honeymoon, Willie was hospitalized after Jeanette bashed him in the head with a statue because she said he wasn't walking fast enough. Within a couple of years of getting married, Willie had bought a farm and they were now making a good income by selling their crops. Jeanette did what she wanted. Either she stayed home, went out drinking, was at the bars, or was out with other men. At 18, Jeanette gave birth to their first child, a little girl named Gertrude, but within 3 months, the baby was sent to live with her grandmother. Because Jeanette tried to choke the baby to death after Willie bought her a dress. She said he was giving the baby too much attention. She didn't like that. By the time Jeanette was 21, she had gotten pregnant with another man's baby. Willie knew it was not his child, but he did not care because he was devoted to this marriage. Y'all, when Jeanette had this baby, she named him after the baby's father. She didn't name him after Willie. I can't with this witch. I would her ass. Willie adored Robert, and everywhere Willie went, he took Robert with him. He doted on him. He did not mind that Robert was not his biological child. Jeanette quickly realized that she could use the children to manipulate Willie into doing whatever she wanted and giving her whatever she wanted, so she quickly got pregnant with the next child, which was Willie's. The next child was a little girl that Jeanette named Janelle, and her father nicknamed her Birdie. But sadly, Birdie did not make it past 3 weeks old because Jeanette beat her to death and then threw her off a cliff and claimed it was an accident. Dang, she is evil. But everyone that knew them knew it was no accident because Jeanette had been badgering Willie to get her a new car, and when he said they couldn't afford it, she took it out on baby Birdie. She told Willie, "If you don't get me that car, you're next." And within a couple of weeks, she had a new car. I would have took that car and run her ass over. Willie said, "I should have known something was up when she said she was going to take the baby for a walk. She never did that. And unfortunately, by the time I realized what was going on, it was too late." Now, before we hate Willie, let me just say, Willie grew up in a very toxic household where he was abused by his parents and he was nearly killed multiple times. People believe he was also on the spectrum, and now he's a victim of domestic violence, and they think that's why he was so afraid of her. So within a couple of years, they had gotten pregnant again, and Janelle had another little girl, and this time she named her Bernadette. Now, when Jeanette had Bernadette, Willie took the baby when she was like 2 days old to his family's house because he was afraid that Jeanette was going to kill her. Within 3 months of having Bernadette, Jeanette was pregnant again by another man. So within a year of having her third child, Jeanette is now having her fourth child, a little girl who she names Willadine. Now, Jeanette doted on Willadine, and people think the only reason she loved her so much was because Willadine's biological father was Jeanette's high school sweetheart who she was still in love with. Now, during this time, Willadine, the last child, she's already up a few years, and she's acting just like her mother, if not worse. So now Jeanette has all her kids back, and she favors Willadine, and her and Willadine make the other kids' lives a living hell. So before long, Jeanette was pregnant again, this time by Willie, Willie, and they have their fourth child, a little boy they call Jacob. The only reason Jacob survived was because Willie kept him on his shoulder with him at work 24/7 so they couldn't hurt him. So by her late 20s, Jeanette has her last baby, a little girl who she names Geraldine. All the remaining kids feared their mother. They were terrified of her, and they learned pretty quickly, if you want to live, you better stay away from mom. Except for Willadine, because Willadine was her favorite. The whole family was terrified of Jeanette because they knew if you got on her bad side, she would kill you. And the sad part was there wasn't really any police in this town back then at that time. People got away with a lot back then, especially abusive or killer parents. So fast forward a few years, and 2 of the grandparents have died, and now those kids are being sent back to live with Jeanette and Willie. One way that she would torture her kids is she would buy them a pet, let them love it, and then when she got mad, she would kill and then make them bury it. She would beat these kids so bad that, like I said, Willie would have to take them to work to keep them alive. Jeanette would starve these kids, beat them, lock them in the house, wouldn't let them talk to each other. She turned them against each other. Willadine would snitch on the other kids, and she would even make stuff up just so Jeanette would beat and abuse the other kids, and sometimes Willadine abused them too. It was all she knew. Willadine wrote, "I was always my mama's favorite until I was 13, and when my body began to develop, my mom despised me. It was like she was jealous of me. She hated the sight of me." So by the time Willadine was older and her mama turned on her, Willadine now had nobody because none of the other kids wanted anything to do with her at that point. So now Willadine was on her own. Willadine said, "When I was 15, I got pregnant by my high school sweetheart. When I told my mom, she threw me through a window. She said if we didn't get rid of it, she would get rid of me. Mom said that she would not allow her husband to support my bastard. It's not his responsibility or hers." Now back then, they really didn't have abortion clinics around, so Jeanette told Willadine if she wanted to live in their house, she would have to let her do an abortion. So to get rid of this child, Jeanette forced Willadine to drink poison. She did, you know what, with a hanger. She hit her in the stomach. She even took her out to the river in the middle of wintertime and dunked her in the water repeatedly. But it didn't work, and Willadine gave birth to a beautiful, healthy baby. But Jeanette said one way or another we're getting rid of that child, and she meant it. 2 days later, Jeanette came into Willadine's room with 2 strangers and a handful of money, and they took the baby and left. Jeanette sold her own grandchild. Willadine wrote, "That's when trouble really started. After Mama realized she could make a lot of money from selling these babies, she basically became my handler or pimp from that point forward." Part 2 coming up, and things get even crazier with this family. So back when I was homeless, I would babysit my friends' kids in exchange for somewhere to stay. So I started making ads on Craigslist offering babysitting services. So I get an email from a woman named Eileen, and she says that she has an adult son who is disabled, and she needs someone to come over and sit with him while she works. She said that he was in his 30s, he was permanently disabled, he couldn't walk, talk, use the bathroom, or eat on his own. So I asked her what happened to her son, and she said when he was a teenager, he fell off a horse head first and got brain damage and was paralyzed from the neck down. She said he can't talk or communicate, but sometimes he'll moan. He won't really have to do anything but sit there and just make sure the house don't burn down, because by the time I go to work in the evening, he's already going to bed. So she calls me and asks, "When can you start?" I said, "Tomorrow." She said, "We'll be here at 4:30, but if I have to go into work early, I'll just leave a note on the door for you showing you what I want done." Next day, I get there around 4:35, and I find a note on the door that said, "Hey, I had to go into work early, but Jason's inside and your money's on the table. Make yourself at home." So I cracked the door open, and I could see a man sitting in a wheelchair in front of a TV with his head tilted, and when I walk in, I say, "Jason," and he doesn't respond. So when I get to the kitchen table, there's an envelope with my name on it, and when I open it up, there's $200 in it. So I thought, okay, she's serious about the job. This is for real. I found a long note on the refrigerator of things I needed to do. 8 o'clock supper, 8:30 diaper change, 9 o'clock bath. So I spent the night doing everything on her list, and then I put him to bed, and then I went to sleep on the couch, and I was just glad to finally have a roof over my head. Now, Eileen had these alarms set to let you know when to go feed or change Jason, so one of these alarms went off around 2 a.m. and it woke me up. I check on Jason, and then I go to the bathroom, and when I look in the mirror, my hair is balled up and has a big matted spot where something is like dried up in it. I'm thinking, did I drool in my own hair? What the hell is that? And I have to rinse my hair out in the sink and pick the shit out. So by 12:30 the next day, Eileen has still not come home from work, and now I'm making Jason lunch. So now it's time to wash him, and while I was giving him a bath, I could tell he was physically very excited, and when I was drying him off, his hand grazed across my ass. But I'm thinking it was an accident because when you work that close with patients, you're bound to bump into each other one way or another. Trigger warning, this part is disgusting. So after his bath, I put him in the bed, and then I went and laid on the couch and took a nap, and when I woke up, that same shit was in my hair again. I had my hair pulled back tightly, but once again, it was pulled out like this and looked like someone had jizzed in it. So I'm leaned over the sink, rinsing my hair out, and I hear stomping in the hallway, but when I look out, no one's there, and Jason's in bed asleep. So now it's after dark, Eileen still hasn't come home, and now I'm Skyping with my boyfriend when I hear Jason moaning in the bedroom, so I go to check on him, but nothing's wrong. I get back on Skype with my boyfriend, and within minutes, my boyfriend says, "Who's that walking behind you? Who's that man?" I said, "Huh? Ain't no man here." Well, except for the patient, Jason, but he's paralyzed. He can't walk. So we carry on the conversation, and then my man says, "Who you got over there?" I said, "Nobody's here but me and Jason." He said, "You damn liar. I just saw him walk by again." He said, "What's the address? I'm coming over there. I don't believe you." I said, "Why are you so jealous? This is why we can't build trust. But here's the address. Come on over if it'll make you feel better." So he's on the way, and I'm pissed off because he don't trust me. So I get up, put the computer down, and I go into Jason's room to check on him. Here's where shit gets weird. When I open Jason's bedroom door, I see his eyes are wide open, but when I get close to him, he closes his eyes like he's pretending to sleep. Well, he's flushed, face red, breathing heavy, and pouring sweat like he's been jogging around the house. And I'm like, why is he sweating like that if he can't move? So I roll him over, and I'm fluffing the pillows and blankets behind his body, and when I get to his feet, my finger accidentally grazes the bottom of his foot, and it twitched. Eileen told me that he was paralyzed from the waist down and could not move a muscle, so now I'm wondering, how the fuck is his feet twitching? So I lock myself in the bathroom, and then I see those lights under the door again, and when I look under the door, he's walking. And that's when it finally hits me. I've been staying with a predator who's faking a disability and gets off on strangers wiping his butt. A grown man who is pretending to be disabled, having total strangers wash him, change him, dress him, and feed him. I realize Eileen doesn't even exist. He was the one who was emailing me to begin with to lure me here, and he's been jizzing in my hair. So while I'm in the bathroom, I hear Jason moaning like he needs me, so I yell, "Be there in a minute," but I'm actually climbing out the bathroom window because I'm leaving. My man shows up with a weapon, and we go in the house, and he takes one look at Jason and says, "That's him. That's the man I saw behind you." So my man starts yelling at Jason, "Get up, boy, get up. Come on, you ain't fooling nobody. You want to play games with my old lady? I'm gonna f you up." Well, then my man fires a shot beside Jason on the bed, and that made Jason flinch, and then Jason jumps up and takes off running out of the house. My boyfriend follows behind him and fires another shot, and then I grab my boyfriend and snatch him back, and then we get in the car and leave. So as we're leaving, we stop by the mailbox to try to see who lives there, and when we open it up, it's jam-packed full of mail. It hadn't been checked in months, probably years. So we go back the next day, and a neighbor tells us the homeowner was put into hospice months ago, and that's why the power's still on. And squatters had been breaking into the house and staying there. And one thing we couldn't figure out was who called me that first day pretending to be Eileen, because the person I talked to sounded just like a woman, but it could have been this guy. I don't know. So I go to try to file a police report, and they won't even let me talk to a detective. They said it sounded like a scam, and they didn't handle those types of cases. Then my boyfriend gets mad and cusses me out for being homeless, saying I need to get my shit together. I said, "I'm doing everything I can do. I don't have people paying my bills like you do." I said, "You 30-something years old, still living with your grandparents, mooching off of them, got them paying all your bills, and you trying to tell me I need to get on my feet? Cute." When I was homeless, I went through hell. I was put in some very scary situations just to have food and a roof over my head. One point, I was sleeping in my friend's pump house, taking baths at the lake, selling aluminum cans for money. I didn't want to, but I had to. When you don't have an income, a home, or support, you do what you got to do to survive, and that's what I was doing.
Can we show them the older homestead?
Yeah, let's go. As you know.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Was that you?
Yeah, that's on either side.
It went to both.
Yeah.
Scary Storytime Mimic Edition, While I Make Slime, sent in by a supporter. Please don't mind my bonnet, yeah. So we gonna call this girl Miley because she didn't tell me if she wanted to remain anonymous or not. Oh my gosh, I always do this. Okay, so y'all, Miley decided to stay at a cabin with some of her friends and her boyfriend. I want to say this is in the middle of nowhere. I need to start making my slime in a bowl again. But this cabin was in New Zealand, and they didn't know too much about the cabin, but they rented it anyways because it was the end of the school year. You know, they want to have fun. Okay. Now, the day that they got there, nothing ended up happening. Everything was going good. Everything was going nice up until it started to get closer to night. Now, during the day, they went skiing, they went exploring, and then towards the night, they started to chill, they started to wind down, they had a couple drinks, and they decided to all get into the hot tub. Now, when they were all in the hot tub, they heard this loud bang noise, but since they were intoxicated, they ended up letting it go, sort of. So after hearing the first noise, guess what? They heard a noise a second time. And so I guess this was just the okay, it's time to go inside for her friends. They went inside, but Miley and her boyfriend decided to stay outside in the hot tub. So Miley and her boyfriend, they having fun outside. They, having a good little time. And then they start to hear footsteps. Now, this initially freaks Miley out. And then her boyfriend, reassures her, tells her everything is okay. And after that, a couple moments later, guess what Miley sees? A tall black figure. And this scares the crap out of her. She freezes. She jumps up, leaves the hot tub, and runs, literally into the house, leaving her boyfriend outside. Now, Miley was a little confused on why her boyfriend didn't follow her, but 10 minutes later, he ended up coming inside, and he was acting a little unusual, but she kind of, brushed it off. Now, they went to bed, and the next morning when she woke up, guess where her boyfriend was? Nowhere to be freaking found. So obviously, like any normal person in this situation, she started to freaking freak out, and she started texting him, calling him, blowing up his phone, and then he texted her like a weird response and was like, oh, everything is fine. It was just a family emergency. But this is kind of strange because if it was that serious, you would have woken me up before you left, but you didn't. So since he responded, she ended up calming down, and she had a nice fun day with her friends, and her boyfriend was gone all day long, and he came back at night. Now keep in mind, they did not go back to the hot tub because everyone was kind of scared of it at this point. So when she seen her man again, she noticed that he looked way more frightened than he was. So she was like, are you good? And he just like responded like he had seen a ghost. So she was like, okay, something is off. She knew something was wrong. So she ended up going back outside to the hot tub to like clear her head to see what was going on, and that's when she found her boyfriend like unconscious, like he was sleeping. This is where it starts to get crazy because her boyfriend is in the hot tub, but at the same time he's in the house. Something's not adding up. So obviously she panics, she wakes her boyfriend up, and this is where she realizes that her boyfriend that's like in the hot tub, that's her boyfriend, and the person that's in the house, she don't know who that is. So immediately she goes to check up on her man. She's like, hey, okay, this is gonna annoy me. Get off of the table. So immediately she goes to check up on her man, okay? And she wakes him up, and this is where she realized, like I said, that her man that was in the freaking hot tub, that was her man, and he has been here since she left him last night, okay? And the guy that was in the house, she don't know who that was. So she woke up her boyfriend, she grabbed him, and they went to the house, made sure all her friends were okay, and the mystery person, they were in the bathroom crying, looking confused. To this day, they don't know who that person was. They called the cops. The person got arrested. Now, I don't know if it was a mimic, but I can say it was probably like a walker, a walker, But anyways, yeah, that's the story. This was sent in to me by a supporter. I did not use their real name because they didn't give me permission to, so yeah.
One of the scariest things that ever happened to me while babysitting, story time. Now, I was 15. I've been babysitting for a few years at this point, so I had a lot of experience with kids. They love me. Well, a family friend asked if I would go babysit their 7-year-old son for a couple of days while they went out of town to Myrtle Beach, so I said sure, that was great money for me. So the parents put their bags in the car. They showed me where everything is. Now, his mom made it clear to me that he has a very active imagination and that because his daddy let him watch horror movies the week prior, he's been having nightmares and making things up, saying that he's been seeing stuff around the house that's not there. So they get their stuff in the car, they give their son a kiss, and they leave. So I'm flipping through all the satellite channels, checking out different shows, eating popcorn, little boy's playing with his toys, drinking his little juicy juice, and we're just having a good time. So I go in the kitchen to put a frozen pizza in the oven, and all of a sudden, this little boy comes flying out the living room, running up to me, and then wraps around my leg, just looking in the living room and then looking at me, back and forth. I said, damn son, are you okay? What happened? He said, she's in there, she's in there. I said, who's in there? He said, her, but I didn't see nothing. And before I can push him any further, he walks over and sits in front of the TV and starts ignoring me. We're sitting on the couch watching TV, and their couch was in the middle of the room, so you could walk around it. Well, this little boy starts looking behind the couch and then back at the TV. So I start looking back behind us. It's like a natural reaction when you see somebody else doing that, you start doing it. The more he did this, the more I felt like somebody was standing behind us, but I don't see anything. So I get up and walk across the room, and from there I can see the hallway. And for a second, something stood out to me. At the end of the hallway, it looked like someone was peeking around the corner like this. But when I cut the light on, it was gone, so I thought my mom was playing tricks on me. My anxiety's peaking, so I'm like, okay, it's the first time you've been left alone in someone else's house. Calm down, go take a shower and go to bed. But while I'm taking a shower, I get the weirdest feeling like somebody's standing outside of the shower curtain. Now, they had a big-ass bathroom, so I was like, dude, it's a new place, it's a big bathroom, you're not used to this. Just stop freaking out. But I have to keep sticking my head out the shower curtain to make sure nobody's there because I'm getting that vibe like somebody is there. So I peek out the shower again and bam, this kid is standing in the doorway crying. I said, what's wrong? He said, it's gonna get me. It's in there. I just saw it. Can I stay here with you? I'm scared. I said, yes, stay right there. Just turn the other way. And then I dry off and get dressed in the shower so he can't see me. Now it's about 11 o'clock at this point and he's still wide awake. So we sit there and talk for a little while. We play with Legos, Play-Doh. I'm just trying to wear him out so he'll go to sleep. Well, finally around 2 a.m., he falls asleep. Now, it was already so late, I didn't have time to unpack my clothes, so I just get in the bed and I go to sleep. About 10 minutes later, I hear this youngin' screaming again. Before I can even get out of the bed, I hear him thunk, 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 and he's already running into my room, jumps into bed with me. He's screaming to the top of his lungs, she's there in my room behind the door. She's gonna get me if I'm alone. Please don't make me go back in there. So we're laying there in the bed together, and he says, I know you think I'm making stuff up. I promise you I'm not. She was there. I saw her. I said, honey, I believe you. It's okay. Just relax and close your eyes and start taking some deep breaths. This child has one hell of a grip on me. Like, he's wrapped around me like a python, so I could tell he was really scared. Like, he really thought something was going to snatch his ass off that bed. So I just held him and hoped that maybe he would calm down. Now, I know a lot of you would just tell these kids to hush and go to bed, but I'm not like that. I went through the same thing as a child. I would see things that were not there, and nobody else believed me. So I wanted him to know that I believed him and I was protecting him. So I reached over to the nightstand and I tapped that old school touch lamp 3 times and put it on the brightest setting so it lit up the room. That way we would feel more safer and we'd get some sleep. Then I start hearing some distant thunder, and then it starts pouring rain. I think, oh, well, that sounds relaxing. So because of that storm, my ass knocked out. I was doing some good sleeping until about 30-40 minutes later. That was when I abruptly woke up to the bed shaking. It felt like a small tremor, like a little earthquake. So I'm trying to get my eyes adjusted and wake up and figure out, why is the bed shaking? Apparently the storm knocked the power out because it was pitch black dark in that room, and the only time I could see anything was when the lightning struck. Well, once my head gets adjusted, I start hearing a noise, like chattering of teeth. I'm laying there trying to figure out what the hell is that noise and what is shaking the bed. And that's when I look over and I see the little boy is sitting up on the other side of the bed with his hands holding the cover, and it's him shaking the bed. He's shaking that hard. And that chattering sound I heard was coming from his teeth. He was sitting here holding the covers with his eyes wide open and going, are you okay? Because I thought he was having a seizure, but when I looked at him, his eyes darted over to mine, and I realized he was awake. He was so scared. Like, he couldn't move. He was frozen, shaking and chattering. I'm like, well, if he's not having a seizure, what is wrong with him? And that's when it clicks. He's sitting here staring at the door, so I look at the door. Y'all, let me tell you, in that moment, when that lightning flashed, I damn near shit my pants. It scared me so bad. Have you ever been so scared that your hands and arms and legs start tingling, they damn near go numb? When I looked at that bedroom door, there was someone's head peeking around the door like this, and you could only see their eyes. And when the lightning stopped flashing, I couldn't see anything anymore. It was complete darkness. That was when it really hit me. Holy crap, we're not alone. There's someone else in the house, and they're standing right there. But what really freaked me out was every time the lightning would strike, I could see more of that person's face. Like, it started like this, and then this, and this, and then I could see their actual mouth. This person was smiling ear to ear. I could barely take a breath in. All I could think was, what the hell is that thing? Then, of course, the lightning stopped flashing, so for a few seconds, it was completely dark, and I had that feeling again like someone was watching us and getting closer and closer, and I was starting to panic. And when lightning struck a few seconds later, I could tell they were getting closer, because now this motherfucker, person, thing, or whatever, was now at the foot of the bed, peeking over like this, staring at us. At this point, my damn teeth were chattering. All I could hear was between the both of us. So I pulled that little boy up on my lap in my arms as tight as I could, because I didn't want whatever it was to try to snatch him out of my arms, and I held him real tight. So now when the lightning flashed, we could see its whole face peeking over the bed, smiling, looking right at us. So that was when fight or flight kicked in for me, and I remember the dad telling me that he'd put a loaded pistol in the nightstand and behind the headboard of this bed, so I start reaching around for it. And for some reason, my gut was telling me, you better keep your eyes on this thing. Every time the lightning strikes, pinpoint where it is with your eyes and don't take your eyes off or it's going to jump. Reaching, trying to multitask, keep my eyes on it, hold the little boy, and feel around for this pew-pew, and I finally feel it, and I snatch it out of that holster and I hold it up. When the lightning struck, I pointed at this thing. I said, if you take another step, I'm going to blow you into the next room. Get out and leave now. In that moment, something happened. I don't know what it was, but I could feel me looking into it and it looking into me, and that lightning flashed, and then all of a sudden the power cut back on. And no lie, as soon as the power came on, it was gone. I snatched him up out of the bed, grabbed that pew-pew, and ran to the kitchen and called 911. I stayed on the phone with them, the police came, and then I called the parents. I put the cop on the phone, they're talking, and then they tell the cop that they're not coming back until Sunday. Even though we're telling them we think there's an intruder in the house and their child's here, they don't give a shit. They're not coming home. They think it's our imagination playing tricks on us because the power went out and we're getting freaked out with the storm and everything. So I made it very clear I was not staying in their house another minute, and I was going to take their child back to my family's house, and that's where we would be. And they said, okay, fine, we'll see you on Sunday. So I asked the little boy if that was the first time he saw this thing, and he said no. He'd been seeing it for months, but this was the first time it got that close. Now, I knew he'd have to go back to that house, so the next day, me and my cousin went over and cleansed the entire house, hoping it would help. help.
Scary story time at 3 a.m. Appalachian Mountain Edition while I make slime. For those of you who did not know, I also make YouTube videos, scary story time YouTube videos. So yeah, currently making one now. Get your money's worth and let it drain. Monica and her best friend rented a cabin for her birthday. Now, when they arrived, everything was nice. The trail was nice. They had a fun time. But this specific cabin had an outhouse. So, unfortunately, at around 1:30 a.m., Monica had to use the bathroom pretty badly. She's scared, but of course she goes to use the bathroom. And as she's going, she's in complete darkness. And she hears her best friend's voice saying, "Come here." Same pitch, same slang, everything. But she whispered it. So Monica responds back like, "Girl, what? Like, I'm using the bathroom." And then the voice laughed. And it was her exact laugh, but it kind of echoed. And it was weird because it like echoed too many times. And then the voice said, "Come here. I need your help. Like, come to the trees." And that's when she realized the best friend's voice wasn't coming from the cabin. It was coming from the tree line. She sprinted to the freaking cabin because she thinking that her best friend need help or her best friend got kidnapped or something. And that's when she found her best friend passed out. She was snoring, drooling, probably having a good old dream before she went up in there and scared her awake. She was screaming. She woke up her best friend. Her best friend's like, "Girl, what's wrong? What's going on?" And that's when she said, "Girl," oh my gosh, she said, "Girl," like, she told her everything that happened, basically. And her best friend was like, "Girl, I've been in here the whole time. Like, I wasn't pranking you. Like, I've been in here the whole time." So when they told the cabin owner the next morning, the cabin owner was like, "Well, yeah, the trees echo what you fear at night. So that's why the locals don't go out at night." As a matter of fact, why did you even let me, why wouldn't you tell me the rules? If you knew this, why wouldn't you tell me before, man, I'm stuttering. But why wouldn't you tell me the rules? And then why would you have an outhouse knowing that I'm not supposed to be going outside at night? That don't even make no sense. I'm not supposed to be going outside at night and you got an outhouse. Man, this is rigged. I blame the owner.
What the fuck was that? Bro!
What's going on around you?
I don't know. I'm frozen. I am frozen.
Did the window
Sean.
break?
You guys want to hear a scary story? It reminds me a lot of Insidious, but it's real. One time when I was babysitting these two girls, talked about them in a video before this. We were going to call the older one Luna and the younger one Aura. That's what I called them last time. I was babysitting, and the older one had an imaginary friend that she called Pete. I would always sense weird energy in this house. Disturbing, dark, like not good, friendly Casper the Ghost. And then one time, the oldest Luna at the time was, I want to say she was 3 or 4. And the baby, Aura, was like 6 months old. And I had put Aura down for bed. Put her in her little swaddle, got her all set up. She was snug as a bug, cute, perfect sleeping. And me and Luna were out in the living room because I was like, okay, we can play one game together like before you go to sleep because Aura obviously went to bed a little bit earlier. Then we pulled out like Candyland, some board game, which obviously she doesn't know how to play the ins and outs and the rules because she's 3. But when we were playing, she had another little character and it was Pete's, right? And every time, I swear to God, I would look away, I'd look back and it would move and she'd be like, "Oh, Pete moved it." And I'm like, "Okay, Luna, like you obviously moved it, you know?" Like she's 3 and I know she's just like, you know, she doesn't know how to play the game. Now I know it was literally this dark spirit that was moving it, but stay with me. I'm like, "Okay, Luna, sure." And then out of nowhere, we're playing and the TV was on in the background, excuse me. And Luna goes, "I love this song." And I'm like listening. I'm like, "What song, baby? Like, I don't hear any music." And she said, "Oh, the song that Pete is singing to me." She said, "It's a song that my daddy plays on his guitar," because their dad played guitar, I guess. Like, I'd always see the guitar. Sometimes it'd be in the living room or sometimes it'd be in the parents' room. Like, when I'd go in there to grab stuff for the kids, it was just, like, always propped against a wall. And I was like, "Oh, that's nice. Like, remember what we said about Pete?" Because I told her I didn't want her talking to Pete because, again, this felt like a dark energy. And it sucked because every time I was there, I felt like he was sitting in between me and her. Like, he was always, the spirit, Pete, was always hovering. It would never go away. So anyways, I'm like, "What song? Blah, blah." And she's like, I'm trying to get her to describe to me again. She's 3. She doesn't really know how to describe it. And she says, "No, Pete said he'll play for you." And I said, "No, that's okay." Me like, want anything to do with it? She said, "No, he'll play for you. Just hold on." So I ignore it and we start playing this game again. Just moving little pieces across the board. And all of a sudden I hear the strum of a guitar. Just a solo strum, like an off chord. and I just get chills down my back because at this time the guitar was in the parents' room. I only knew that, I hadn't gone in their room that time, but because I heard it and their door was shut. And Luna jumps up. She's like, "Oh, I told you, Riley. Like I told you. Pete said he'd show you the song. It's my favorite song." And I am terrified. Like I'm trying so hard to act cool. I don't know how this little girl is not so scared. But I'm just like, "Oh, okay, hold on. Let me just go look real quick," because my immediate thought was like, maybe somebody's in the house, like a real person, because that sounded way too real. It literally was just a strum of a guitar. So I go into the parents' room, I turn on all the lights, the guitar is just sitting against the wall. Nobody's in the house. I do a sweep, and I'm like really disturbed because every sweep I'm doing, I feel like something is just hovering and following me into every room I'm going into. So I finally sit back down with her. I'm like, "Okay, babe, let's watch like 10 more minutes of the show, and then like we're gonna go to bed." When I sat on the couch with her, it was the first time I felt like not super heavy, overpowering energy, and I'm like, whew, okay, like, but anyways, I was like, okay, this feels a little less heavy. Sorry, my dog's drinking water in the background. She's so loud. So I'm like, okay, I can breathe a little bit. And I pick up the baby monitor right next to us. You guys know what's coming. You've seen the scary movies, because it literally was just like that. Pick up the baby monitor to check on Aura, and I literally gag when I think about this because it was so terrifying. I see a hand, right next to the baby. She's sleeping, she's swaddling, and it's a creepy hand where the nails are like this long, and it's just this black shadowy hand just right next to her. And again, this is the first time I said I felt relieved, like I wasn't being followed. It's because it went in the other room. I freak out. I literally sprinted, ran, busted into Aura's room, woke her up because I came in the door so hot. She was crying and just felt that energy in that room was disgusting. I pick her up, I bring her back out to the living room. I'm like trying to explain to the parents when they come home, like they're gonna think I'm insane of why their kids are still awake. And I'm sitting on the couch with the baby and with Luna, and I forgot to turn off the baby monitor. And I literally hear just disembodied voices coming from the baby monitor. Terrifying, out of nowhere, loud. And I literally just shut the baby monitor off. And the baby ended up falling back asleep in my arms. Luna ended up falling back asleep, and she like fell asleep on me, like her little head was on my shoulder. When the parents came out, I was like, sorry, they're just like so sweet, and they just wanted to sleep out here with me. Because I tried again to, like I've explained this in the other video, but I tried to kind of bring it up to them before, how like something I thought was going on in their house paranormal, and they looked at me like I was fucking insane. So I knew I wasn't getting anywhere with that. But that was also one of the terrifying times I experienced babysitting for those kids.